Hello, everyone, and welcome to another thrilling episode of Association Peeps in Cubicles, drinking coffee. If you've watched previous episodes, we've established that we are not always drinking coffee. Sometimes we drink tea, sometimes we drink water, but there is an underlying theme of hydration. My name is Rachel Luoma. I'm one of the vice presidents here at Partners in Association Management, and I am joined on that side of the screen. Nope, it's mirror image on that side of the screen by yours truly.
On this side of the screen is John Ricco, also a vice president here at Partners in Association Management. Good to be here with you today.
Thank you for joining me, John. So we usually start off with our beverage of the day, and today I've got one of my favorite beverages. This is my Tezo classic chai. I am a tea drinker, probably over a coffee drinker. It's like a running joke that I'll take 2 sips of my coffee, and then that's about it. I have a full cup of coffee from this morning sitting off to the side. So if you like tea and you like flavors that are, this is my favorite, that are bold and rich, that you may want to try. Classic Chai by Tezo. All rights reserved, by Tezo, none by us. So welcome again. Thank you for being here. So today, John, I wanted to talk a little bit about time management. I know, you've done various presentations on this at different, associations. You've done it, I think, for association in Denver. You've done it, I know, for GSAE, for FSAE. So you are a resident time management expert. And so I wanted to just chat with you a little bit about kind of some of the things that you have learned along your journey. One of my first questions for you, is I always joke that theory and practice are two very different things. So while I ultimately want to get to, what are good practices in time management, in your research, have you learned a little bit about any kind of theory or any kind of data that is important or relevant for people who are trying to achieve better time management?
You know me, I'm not a very theoretical kind of guy. To me, it's all about the nuts and bolts and the implementation of stuff. So I guess probably the main thing is that in some of the research and some of the books I read, there's a book written by a couple of Stanford professors, Pfeffer and Sutton, called The Knowing Doing Gap. And it's not necessarily about time management, but it does relate to time management in that the underlying premise of the book is more is said. I'm tripping over my words. More is said than done. And so a lot of times what happens is we inherently go to any kind of training seminar, whether it's on priority or time management or anything else, and you sit there through the seminar and you say, oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've heard that before. I know that. But the question is have you actually implemented and acted on which you have learned? And so it's one thing to talk about and to hear about things, but it's another thing to implement them. So I would say, if you pick up any tips today, make sure that you try and implement them. And the same holds true for any other educational session where you might go and hear somebody speak and at the end talk with somebody afterwards and you say, oh, how was that session? And you go, well, I didn't hear anything that I didn't already know. Well, that might be the case, but have you actually tried to implement and execute that which you were informed about? So that's kind of my theoretical aspect of priority and time management.
No, I like that a lot. And I mean, I would think too, like, what do you think is the biggest mistake that people are making with regards to time management? Because you talked about like the lack of implementation, but what are some other mistakes that people may be making when they're looking to better manage their time that might be causing challenges?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people tend to do is they, in terms of calendaring, they fill their calendar with appointments and meetings and don't really take the time to block chunks of their time for the actual projects and the actual doing of the work. So, if you see somebody's calendar and it's conference call, meeting, and you look at the course of the day, it's peppered with all of these activities. But at the end of the day, most of that stuff is not actually producing any work. So based upon, to talk about theory, the experts that I've listened to and read about say you need to make sure that you're blocking, at least a half a dozen blocks of time of 60 to 90 minutes a day to just focus solely on projects and the work that it is that you need to get
Yeah.
accomplished. So if when I do that session, I tell people, if you take nothing else away from this session, make sure that you're going back to the office and you're blocking your week, and you're either at the end of a week, you're blocking your calendar for next week, or at the beginning of the week, as soon as you get in on a Monday, if you can't do it the week before, really make sure, actually a couple of weeks out, blocking the time for the real important stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll go home and my husband will be like, "What'd you do today?" I was like, "I was on 5 conference calls and then had 2 meetings." And he's like, "How do you actually get your job done?" I was like,
Mhm.
"Well," so I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like just making sure that you're building in time to do the work that either, goes into or leads up to these meetings or that comes out of these meetings, and
Mhm.
even underestimating the amount of time that something like that will take, just planning for planning.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's important. You talk about all the conference calls and meetings that we typically have, and what happens is that when you go from meeting to meeting to meeting, or call to call to call, back to back to back, oftentimes you have deliverables that you're either assigned, or that maybe you assigned your team members that they need to accomplish. And if you're not scheduling just a little bit of time, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes in between calls, just to give you a
Yeah.
time to catch your breath and not turn and all of a sudden go to email and start responding to that, but just say, okay, what is it that I'm responsible for that I need to get on my to-do list? What did I assign to other people that I need to make sure to follow up with, and that sort of thing. So that's one aspect of calendaring, is make sure you're setting brief amounts of time aside after a meeting to make sure you catch up on the to-dos and the deliverables. But then on the other side of it is making sure that you're preparing for a meeting and not just showing up without having given the meeting any thought. It's like, okay, well, what am I responsible for on this agenda, and what do I need to be thinking about so I can be a valuable contributor, and making sure we maximize everybody's time at the meeting. So that's
Yeah.
another thing as well. Prep
I
time.
like that. I like that. I mean, like, even it sounds silly, but like, let's say I've got an hour conference call, putting it in my calendar for an hour and 15 minutes, knowing that that last 15 minutes is just kind of my time to really wrap up and do the things that I need to, but it builds in that buffer before I'm just jumping right onto another call. I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, and if you
Um,
think about it, how relieved is everybody when you've got an hour conference call and only goes 45 minutes, and you have that 15 minutes
I
that you
know.
just got
So
back.
I say,
So,
I'm like,
yeah.
you're welcome for 15 minutes back of your day. In addition to the calendaring and, some tips there, what other things have you found that really can help to make a big difference to helping people be more productive and better manage their time?
Yeah, the research shows that um, interruptions are a huge killer of people's day. And so I just, in preparation for this, knowing that we were, going to be here talking a little about priority and time management, I kind of found one of these old articles. So it's, how long does it take to get back on track after distraction? This is an older life hacker articles, but there's plenty of others. And most people don't believe it when I tell them this, but you can see it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back to the task at hand, um,
Jeez.
after you after each interruption. And so people are like, oh my gosh, no, that can't be the case. Well, yeah, it is the case, because if you think about it, what happens typically is that it's not just one interruption. Somebody sticks, you're in the middle of a project and you don't have your door closed, and you're not, hidden away, and someone says, oh, can you dig this up for me? And you go, yeah, and you go and you find the email and you forward it along to them. You think, okay, well, that's just a second. But what happens is as you're surfing around an email to go find that one, you notice that you had 2 or 3 emails from somebody else, and you go, oh, that will just take a second. Let me click on that and take a look at it. And then before you know it, that'll take you 2 or 3 minutes, and you've gone down that rabbit hole, like in social media, where you click on one thing and before you
Oh,
know it, a half
yeah.
hour has gone by because you've watched 15 YouTube videos, or TikTok, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I call it
I'm
the
dating myself.
Wikipedia abyss because you're just like,
Yeah.
I can click on
Yeah.
this link in Wikipedia and this link is.
Yeah, and so those interruptions are day killers for a lot of people, a lot of lost productivity, billions of dollars a year, the researchers say, in lost workplace productivity. And that's because we're allowing interruptions to occur, and we're also interrupting our colleagues and causing problems as well. So
Oof.
I recommend that people close their doors if they have a door, and a lot of it is just making sure that you communicate with other people, especially when you're on a big project deadline and that sort of thing. And people say, oh, well, I can't be buried in my office for 2 days with the door closed. Our
Yeah.
office culture is just not like that, for those that are not maybe working at home or remotely, but, I just can't do that. And you can, if it's not, and I'm not saying every day, but at least for limited project, let people know. Let the receptionist know if your office that has a receptionist. Hey, listen, please put anything that doesn't sound important through the voicemail. Let your boss know. Let your directs know. Hey, listen, I've got this big project, and for the next couple of days, I'm going to be buried behind closed doors. So please try and limit interruptions. And then that's something that will help. Now that's on a one-off basis.
Yeah.
But on an ongoing basis, one of the best ways to help reduce interruptions in your office is to look within and not go around interrupting other people, and kind of set the tone that way by dialing back the number of times you just pop in somebody's office or cube and start chit-chatting about whatever, or asking them for something. Shoot them an email instead, unless it's super time sensitive, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, how do you, let me just ask, because one of the things that I struggle with is like, how do you let someone know if you don't have time, right? Like, I don't want to be rude. Someone does come and stop by and they're like, hey, you got a second? And every time I'm like, no, unfortunately I don't. I'm like, oh, I'm further perpetuating the perception that I'm rude, and I'm not, I swear. Like, how do you do that? What do you
Well,
do for that?
Well, that's a great question, and you offer to help people, but you do it on your time. So that's an important reason for blocking your calendar
Hmm.
well in advance. So when somebody comes, you can say that you don't have the time, but you offer to help them at some point down the road. What I
Right,
found
right.
is people are a little bit resourceful and a little bit lazy. And if I were to come and interrupt you and say, hey, Rachel, I need help with this budget, if you wanted to, if you were busy and you just couldn't do it, you say, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I'd love to help you. But right in the middle of a project, I'll tell you what, I've got to look at your calendar. I got help for you. I can do it, Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock or Monday at 3 o'clock. And then in a lot of cases, people are going to either figure out how to do it on their own, or they're going to do it on your terms. Say, okay, Monday afternoon works. So that's a great way to do it. Is say, I'd love to help you, but I'm on a deadline for something, and try and push it off to another day where you actually have time open on your calendar to help them.
Okay. And so then let's say, I want more information on this. I want to go find some other resources, whether it's a book or a website. I'm sure you've vetted these, and, the internet is a massive expanse. Where can somebody go to get some additional resources if they're looking for tools or tips or resources for time management?
There's a lot of things out there. Atomic Habits is a good book, because a lot of this is really habitual, and making sure that set yourself up for success. And then you don't say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do what John suggested, and I'm going to block calendar. And then you go and you do it for a week, and you go, oh, this works really well. And then you do it for a second week. And then let's say you're traveling the next week, and then all of a sudden you forget all about it. You don't do it anymore. So a book like Atomic Habits is a really good one. Getting Things Done is also good. That's specifically on organization, project management, time management. Now, it's a little bit super detailed. It's a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit overcomplicated. But if you read that book, there is a good framework for how to organize yourself better to be more effective. And there's some others too, and I can put some links down below in the YouTube channel here, so people
Mhm.
can go and check them out.
Oh my gosh, can I say, I always want to say this, and smash that subscribe button, you guys. Don't
Yeah,
forget
do
to
that, do
smash
that,
that
do
button. And
that.
all right, well, I guess
Rachel and I
that
get a nickel every time somebody
I'm
hits
just,
subscribe.
yeah, it's like my kids. Every time I hear it on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to like our page. Well, all right, sorry, I digress. All right, well, I think that about wraps up our time for today. You get that? So, John, thank you for kind of joining us and sharing your insights. And, I know it's a topic that we all struggle with, and so it's a continuous battle. and just appreciate you sharing kind of all the things that you've learned as you've created your presentations and have done your research. So that about wraps it up for Association Peeps in Cubicles Drinking Coffee. Make sure you block time in your calendar for future episodes and give yourself an extra 15 minutes buffer on the end before you get onto your next call. But we appreciate you joining us, and hopefully you have a great rest of your day. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye all. Smash that button.
Smash it.